everyone is born genius. But if we judge a fish by its ability to climb the tree, it will lead rest of its life believing it was stupid. So learning outcomes becomes extremely important. You see, a little child constructs knowledge blocks bit by bit, reasoning what, why, how, with real concrete objects, using sensory, intellectual abilities. This process of results in enriching experiences. And schools do take responsibility of building further learning on child's existing experiences. Teacher who is a facilitator of student learning needs to be aware about the various pedagogies and also the progress in child's learning from early stages. The system of education too needs to ensure enabling conditions to allow each learner to learn and progress at its own pace. Even the national education policy now talks about the child learning at their own pace. But it's important to identify the age-specific learning outcomes. Schooling without learning is a waste of resource and is an injustice to students who seek schooling in order to learn. Now, without wasting much time, I would now come up to the ice-breaking question. This is one question the same question will be addressed to all our three panelists, and we will hear their perspectives. So it's crucial to keep in mind that learning outcome is attainable. Outcomes need to be reviewed in the light of student's ability, his age, level, the initial skill sets that he has. My question to each one of you in order of how I introduced you. So first Roli ma'am, then Bharti ma'am, and then Lakshmi ma'am. So how, in your view, can learning outcomes and their goals be realistic enough to be achievable as well as beneficial? And is it important to talk about learning outcomes? Yes, Roli ma'am.
Thank you so much, Devyani ma'am, and for beginning the whole webinar addressing the crux of everything. Yes, as you rightly said, every human is different. And here are we educators dealing with children, and that too in their nascent stages. Education, I believe, today, distant from reality, can't serve anymore. And when we think of education being, you can say, the best medium to groom our children for tomorrow, we have to understand in its entirety the concept of learning outcomes. When we think of learning outcomes, I think, first of all, we have to identify the learner, which means our learning outcomes have to be learner-centered. They have to be framed from the perspective of what the learner does, or maybe let's say is capable of, the appropriate level of the learner. Though I personally believe that anybody can push the limits, and especially the children today. And we must provide the right kind of environments and opportunities to our learners. I believe we must provide for the metamorphosis. And going ahead or coming back to the outcomes, they must be very clearly aligned with our course goals. So each of us back in our institutions have certain course goals. We must be mindful of them and align very clearly the learning outcomes. For example, suppose, being an English teacher myself in the past, I would like to say learning outcomes here would be the 3-4 R's, and also the writing process, the critical approaches, the oral communication. So course content also becomes an important determinant. Assessments can be an important determinant. And as you rightly said, we have to understand the real nature of what we are, out to fathom and structure for our kids and for the teaching learning environment back in our schools. The audience must be able to achieve the learning outcomes within the logistics of the course. This is also very important. There are so many things that are determined by time, by our immediate environment. We all in different institutions, in different pockets, are in different settings, and we all have different set of circumstances. So keeping all this, I believe it's pretty challenging that we decide on and determine the learning outcomes. But given our understanding of it, the day is not far that we should be having realistic and achievable as well as beneficial learning outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before I address, can somebody please stop sharing the screen? I think there is a screen sharing going on. Can you take the, yeah, thank you so much. Very rightly, Ms. Rowley, you said that it has to be taken in entirety. Learning outcome is not just that lesson plan where you put in 4 to 5 LOs. It has to be taken in the sum total of that whole learning experience, which starts from the experience, the child experiencing, what is the course content, what are the pedagogies, and how is the assessment aligned to it. Thank you so much. A very, very holistic answer. Thank you. Moving on to Ms. Bharti. Yes, ma'am. What is it that you would like to let us know?
Yeah, I hope I'm audible right now.
Ma'am.
Yeah, some technological issues there. So good evening, everyone. And thank you, ma'am, Devyani ma'am, for introducing me to the entire team, a team full of such educationists coming from different schools. Thank you so much. And yes, introducing us with the topic that is all about the student learning outcomes. And as of now, if I share my views regarding this, I would say, like, in this time we are dealing with students and who are actually coming from different areas, different places, having their different abilities, different learners. When we say some are kinesthetic, some are audio learners, some are visual learners. And accordingly, we have to deal with the students so that whatever is being taught as per their curriculum, as per the school, they should get it, first of all, because that is the goal. So when we set our learning goals, it is actually what is meant is what the process needs to do, or what the process wants the students to understand in the phase of learning. And when we talk about outcomes, it is a measurable term. It is a measurable term wherein we need to measure how much the child has learned from whatever is being taught to them. So when I talk about learning outcome, I would say it is a scaffolding. That is, a child has to learn level by level. And when we teach them, or when we are taking up the different projects or topics, when we are taking up them in the classes at different levels, a child should learn it right from the base and grow up. And during this period of growing up, we have to observe the child, because learning outcome is actually a failure when we only stick into taking assessments or written assessment or maybe oral assessment. It has to be a continuous process wherein the teacher is observing the child while teaching, maybe as a class teacher, or maybe as a subject teacher, or maybe as a taking co-curricular activities. When we keep observing the child, we actually come to know what the child is capable of and what is the way which will be the best for that particular child to take the things.
Great. Thank you so much, ma'am, because there are more coming in and I would like you to keep your points in. Yes. So very rightly said that the process becomes extremely important. And Yes, the outcome needs to be measurable. And the third thing that, which actually you said first was, which is very important when we are curating LOs or learning outcomes, we need to keep in mind the concept of multiple intelligence. We need to create them differential. We talk about differential teaching learning pedagogies. So the whole thing begins when the teacher starts creating her learning outcomes. It's actually there your multiple intelligence concept should figure out. Thank you so much. Moving on to Ms. Lakshmi Mahadevan. Yes, ma'am.
So here it's like when it comes to learning outcome, I would like to come up with the definition that was set up by UNESCO. So it's something called the totality of the information, maybe about the knowledge, the understanding, maybe the methods, the values, the skills that an individual or maybe a student is expected to take up maybe after completing a particular course or maybe a program or anything like that. So it's like a statement or maybe a process which is having a desired result, and we need to take care of the process as well as the results and the method, or which method we are going to focus on, maybe about the skills, about the knowledge, or maybe where to apply the knowledge. So all these things we have to consider. It's like it should be measurable. Something like learning outcome, it's really easy for a student as well as the teacher or maybe the practitioner to focus on the different methods, which method to adopt, or once it's like if we have a goal, then it's really easy to have a step-by-step process to reach the goal. So maybe the learner can easily identify what all things have happened, which method to take up, and they can proceed the whole process.
So when it comes to the university, because of course we have this mixed kind of, we have two principals from schools and then you come from university. So in schools, there is a very set pattern of writing the lesson plan, and this lesson plan begins with your learning objectives and moves on to the learning outcomes, which are actually linked directly. So how do you work it out? In colleges also, do you focus on what will be the learning outcomes? And so how does it work there? How important it becomes in the that undergraduate level?
We do have learning outcomes for everything, especially maybe for an example, if it comes to computer science student who is doing a BTech in computer science, maybe who is doing a project in a particular area, maybe something like artificial intelligence or something. So we have a goal or we have an aim, we have a learning outcome. So maybe the methods differ. Whatever is comfortable for the student, we'll give them a chance to come up on that way to reach the entire goal. So that's what we, it's the flexibility that we offer to the students when it comes to UG than that of school education. That's what I feel.
Great. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. Now, since we have two principals with us, and I'm sure they must be every fortnightly taking their staff meetings and sessions on micro teachings and other things. So now we will not leave them without asking them what is the best way to define learning outcomes, or how do you identify? There are lots of teachers who are listeners today. So we would like you to please throw some light on what are learning outcomes and how can they be defined in the best way. Suppose there's a lesson, like if you could just take a live example and let us know. Jiroli ma'am.
When we talk of learning outcomes, I feel they are, as you said, can be taken as the GPS to our activities, so those which determine the direction in which we are heading. So I believe, first of all, they have to be very clearly articulated. What our students are expected to be able to know, to do, and also value as a result of the learning. Now, this all is different subject-wise, which the teachers, according to their expertise and according to their insights, can help us arrive upon. Learning outcomes must guide the selection of teaching strategies also, the pedagogies also, the materials that are used, the learning activities that we might be integrating. And once again, I come to assessments also. So they have to help guide students in determining what and how to learn in the course. If you want me to define what can be good learning outcomes, so they are the ones that instructors spell down, form, lay down after identifying in their own subject areas the knowledge, the skills, the attitudes that learners should develop through the course. They have to select and create the content, organize it, and then present. Instructional strategies become very important, and feedback strategies here, I think, take a front seat, or must take a front seat, in a way that they are aligned with the learning outcomes. We can always map their curricular outcomes to a program, or many a times in many schools, there are accreditation standards also. When you said subject specific, I just talked about English. Myself having been in the classroom in capacity of an English educator. So for example, when I take up an English lesson, be it literature, be it, you can say, a hardcore learning in the language space of the subject, I believe the 3 R's in English have to be spelled out very clearly, the reading, writing things. And also, you can say the writing process here becomes important, because it can be expanded as per the grade level into writing in 2 different fragments or segments, writing as it appears to the eyes, and writing as expression of thoughts. So there we can spell out what we're actually looking for. When you talk of English as a subject, and when we talk of even the children in very lower grades and learning outcomes out of an English class, there can be any amount of critical approach that we would be looking forward to coming from a child. For example, maybe it was just a story that I might be narrating in the class, or I might have taught in the class. What are the critical aspects, good, bad, diverse opinions on it? All this should find a space and spelled out well as one of the learning outcomes over here. Plus, because as I taught of English, oral communication, expression is a very strong outcome here. And in the similar way, we can decide for other subjects, other disciplines like sciences or social sciences, or outside the classroom activities, which are as important as curricular activities in today's education scenario. This is my personal take on this.
Great. I think very, very insightful. And I really liked when you said that the learning outcomes or the objectives are the GPS to navigate through your lesson. So, that's the kind of importance that has been laid to learning outcomes. And Ms. Bharti, what will very quickly, if you could kind of encapsulate, because I think Ms. Roli has dished out everything, all points she's given us. Anything that you would like to add on this? Is Ms. Bharti there? Okay, I think there's some issue, or she's not there. So, then moving on to our next question, and again, I will try and group in both Lakshmi ma'am and Roli ma'am, that educators are there. Of course, you said we've discussed the importance of learning outcomes in the student learning process. Now, let's come to look at the teachers. Now, what are the challenges that teacher might face with regard to identifying, creating a learning outcome, which probably is applicable to the entire class size of 30, and how to create differential learning outcomes, because looking at the time, because she has a time frame, how is it possible for her to do justice, and what would be the challenges? So if Bharti ma'am, you could take it up, because
Yes, ma'am, sure. Ma'am, there were some technical errors, I think, and the message
no problem.
The host has stopped the camera and the mute. So that is why I was trying to see what was going on. So now again, I think the camera has stopped.
Yes, now it's fine. Priya ma'am, can you just see this technical?
Yeah, please check.
Yeah.
Yeah, ma'am, as Roli ma'am has already, covered most of the point. From my side, I would just like to add that, the actual learning outcome, which I frame out is how much the child can critically analyze and, be creative in, framing different strategies by himself on the topic and the subject which has been taken up. When the child comes up with his own views, own way of doing the things, then actually we can assess that, yes, whatever we wanted to, impart or give it to the child has actually received it from us. It is not that only what the content in the book that matters. The child should be capable of, thinking beyond the books, beyond the box, and come out with, with real life examples and activities which would actually show that, yes, the child has got the concept and is now able to relate and correlate it with his surroundings and the environment. So this is when actually the actual learning happens. And this is where we, in my school, actually we emphasize to see that the child is doing most of the things through activities. Even in a subject like maths, when the different topics are taken up to like teach the child, we ensure that each child is introduced with a topic with something with the real life. For example, if when I take an example of a small class and we are starting with counting or something, we ask each and every child to take out something in front of them and then keep showing them by how the counting takes place. And this is how you are counting your pencils or pens. And this is what you do when you start shifting one object to the other. And this is how the addition is done. So when this kind of teaching is taken up, the outcome which comes is in the actual sense, which can be said that, yes, the child has got the concept and will be able to, give it and, do it on the papers.
Great. Thank you so much, ma'am. I would also like to ask Roli ma'am, because I was just reading that, your school is into a lot of innovative, and I had personally had the good fortune to meet Ms. Sunita Gandhi, and we were discussing at length the kind of innovative practices that go on in your school. So how, do you provide the learning outcomes and objectives to the educators, or help them create them as per the child, as per the age? So how, because teachers do face this challenge of creating these learning outcomes. So I really want you to help them in bullet points. If you could give some tips as to how they can combat this challenge and how best they can come up with the best learning outcomes which are suited to each and every child's differential needs.
So thank you, Devani ma'am. As you've rightly put, we are generally back in our team in a space where we value innovation a lot, because courtesy, a super futuristic mentor and leader to us in the form of our respected director, we're always on our toes and trying to reach that refined level of understanding of education all the time. Given that, we just focus on one thought, that is, we have to make our children aspirational, which brings in a turn the rebound understanding that the teachers have to have a totally redefined understanding of education today. We place, when you talk of learning outcomes or any other thing that we take up back in the school system at CIS, we place a lot of stress on research. So whenever we identify or whenever we have a new understanding of something which can benefit our children, the first step is it is upskilling our teachers and putting research into place, maybe back in the classrooms itself. We have so many times our classrooms equivalent to laboratories where our teachers are experimenting new pedagogies, new principles, and understanding. So we begin at a micro level where we try to sort the communication channels between the school leader or the, you can say, mentor and the teacher, who here in our system today is more of a facilitator, as you said right in the beginning of your talk, and the learner and the character of the learner. So it's all very aspirational. We cannot spell out objectively what exactly can be the learning outcomes, but yes, we are ambitious with our kids, and we really want them to believe in their potential to outperform the stereotypical expectation of their age. We are people who don't believe in pitting children in competition against each other. So you can say our learning outcomes are very exclusive. I want to better my own past performance. I compete with myself. So to me, what is important is how far I have come in my current assessment or performance in comparison to my own past performance. We call it an I versus I understanding of assessments here also.
Okay.
And thus we have this particular climate of education, which is very different from all the other institutions. And currently we are into an alpha pedagogy, which is accelerated learning for all program, wherein we really see how we, being aspirational for our kids, can help them become miraculous learners. So our classroom today are all student-led learning spaces where 5 to 7 year old of my kids are reading newspapers. Anybody here would be surprised to hear, listen, but it's all there out and open to see, witness. So yeah, learning outcomes are important determinants, but very important is that mindset to re-understand education and do more and more and try the new. So that is how we determine education back at CIS.
I think that's very amazing. And I would like to know more about I versus I. What is this I versus I?
So this I versus I is basically an assessment pattern. If I talk very particularly about it, we have basically an in-house software which we use for assessing kids. And it gives a fully diagnostic report wherein we identify areas of kids' own limitations where the kids can better themselves, questions, topics, lessons. So it works two ways: the kid himself diagnosing his own learning, as well as teacher in a diagnostic process of classroom's learning abilities, right? And through all this also, where we are leading children to is not ranking them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the class, never ever. We just believe in kids comparing their current performance with their past. So maybe if today, being a science student, I couldn't do in my maths assessment problem relating to Pythagoras theorem very well. What do I do in my next assessment? Is this particular area of learning or the gap in learning, which my previous assessment showed, covered by me, addressed by me or not? So there lies the focus, and that's a complete environment over here. So to translate the more lofty ideal of compete with yourself, we have a diagnostic assessment pattern, which we call I versus I.
Yeah. Great, thank you so much, ma'am. So, Bharti ma'am, in your school, how do you kind of orient your educators with, or maybe if you could give guidelines and suggest some tips to the faculty members to create effective student learning outcomes?
Ma'am, in my school, as we generally do, we have upskill programs wherein with the with an NEP which has come up, or maybe there are new things which are coming every day. The way of teaching, learning method is changing. So we keep upskilling our teachers in this regard, and it's a very big group of schools. So the teachers from all the schools do come. And when this upskilling is going on, it is a huge area wherein they share what they are doing it in different schools, which are actually very helpful. And then we have resource person also taking up the things. Moreover, the concept which I believe in is I give them space whenever there are meetings or whenever we meet together on just having a one-to-one discussion of how it is going on. I would always prefer it to be a teamwork wherein they sit and discuss what are the major issues being, faced by them in their classrooms, and accordingly to come up with the strategies which would solve the problems or give a solution to the issues. And comfortably then, since classrooms are always a mixed group, the knowledge or the learning can happen in all level and all groups of the group of children. So basically a space is given to the teachers, and we also are into a number of innovative methods, as ma'am already mentioned. Yes, there are softwares which we have taken up, and there are classes wherein we take up students, and like in class 5, as the NEP says, the 5 years assessment and all, we have also taken up through online methods in the school itself, wherein we have made an arrangement that each and every child could connect the laptops and the desktop systems, and can sit on the the small assessment which is there, which is not as per what is the demand of the academics, but just to check the level of the child. And on that assessment, when we get the scores, we are in a position to find out which child is lacking in which area or arena or the field, and accordingly we take up the the things so as to bring out improvement in that particular child. So it's like child-centric. Surely, obviously, it has to be child-centric, and the teachers have to focus on the areas instead of going in the traditional method and taking up the things. We have totally changed the system wherein we go as per the child's requirement and try to give some special attention to those wherein we feel that they actually need our assistance to take them up to a level. So it is a hand holding to the child to see that the child is growing as he grows with the years in different classes from the different levels.
Yeah. So I think the core that you mentioned is that subject planning becomes very important, and you put a lot of focus on subject planning, and from there you navigate through. A very important aspect of learning outcomes is understanding the competency-based teaching of a particular stream. We are happy to announce that on 6th August, Edudevs is in association with Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham is hosting a mega teacher training workshop on competency-based pedagogies and methodologies. And of course, we have none other than people who are doings of this industry, like Professor Dr. Ashok Ganguly ji. We have with us Ms. Charumani, Principal Chairperson, DAV, and an illustrious panel of resource persons coming to the city of Lucknow. So just wanted to brief you on that learning, an important aspect in creating your learning outcomes is identifying the competencies that a particular stream has to offer. Thank you so much, ma'am. Bharti ma'am, when it comes to senior faculty, what are the suggestives that you have to offer for the senior faculty, maybe let's say 11th, 12th undergrads, that how should they take up and create the learning outcomes which are not completely leading to a book outcome of a theoretical outcome, but they are also building a holistic curriculum in the senior school.
Ma'am,
sorry, this was for Lakshmi, ma'am. I just said Bharti, ma'am. I'm so sorry. Yes, Lakshmi ma'am. I think I goofed up. I'm sorry. Lakshmi ma'am, this question was for you. Would you have, but I give you a choice. Do you have any tips, like when it comes to senior faculty members? Because till class 10, there is enough of matter to play with. There is enough of innovation that can happen. But as we go in the senior wing, the bottleneck keeps on reducing because we become subservient to time, curriculum, marks, admissions. So what is it? Maybe 2-3 tips that you would like
So
to
maybe
offer.
it's like for them, maybe for us, we people will have these multiple methods of assessment. Maybe something which is related to the national assessment survey or something of different educational reports. So we used to follow different learning outcome methods, or we used to follow different evaluation methods that's completely different from that of a school grade and compared to that of a UG or maybe something like undergraduate grade or graduate level.
So, okay, I won't leave you on this because I know Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham is a university which is STEM based, and I have interacted with various resource persons and faculty members of the university who have talked about a lot about use of technology in assessment, in pedagogy, and the thing. Can you also tell us, throw some light on how has technology replaced the physical interaction and impacted the creating of, the right kind of learning outcomes?
So
And
I
of course, I'll pass this question to our principals as well, because I know they've had a lot of hands-on on technology. Yes,
So
Lakshmi.
I would say like it's not like the physical interaction is completely replaced. I would not agree, but the physical interaction is there, but the level is completely reduced. It's like maybe a decrease of maybe up to 50% or something like that. So what technology has done is it just has opened a wide window or maybe something like a new world before the children. So it's like anybody can learn anything, maybe through the virtual experience. So it's like for school students, we are having different platforms. Now technology is taking up the role of a facilitator in almost all the schools. It's something each student is receiving. So it's like they have an full-time access, maybe I would say 24/7 access to anything they want to learn. So that's what technology has changed the whole scenario. It's like real-time solutions are there. Maybe it has made the method or the process more interactive, and the traditional method or the traditional way of that method, maybe the teaching or even the learning method has been outdated now. So more of the concept is making visual. The theoretical concept is very low at this point of time. Now it's like we are stopping on memorizing or that by hearting concept, and it's something like understanding. And we have the uninterrupted studies or something like personalized learning concept has come. That's what I would say. The technology has changed the learning process into something called personalized. So it's like what a student needs. It's completely understood with the help of technology or this concept of maths or something like this concept of physics, how we have to teach them. Maybe I would say this technology is even helping the faculty. Maybe we often use grading softwares in our college.
Right.
Or maybe something like the chatbot. Like students' mentality is changing, and it's something like fun to learn concept is coming. Even it's for the base theory or the derivation or something which is related to mathematics or something. It's something like fun to learn concept is coming, and yeah, I would say that's what I have to mention when it comes to technology.
Right. The technology has reduced the human interface in this. So, ma'am, you tell us, Bharti, ma'am, that how was technology? How did it impact, and did it even impact the redefining of learning outcomes? Because lots changed. Our way of delivering changed. the way the students received changed. So what is your suggestive here?
Technology, when I say, I look at technology from both the sides. One is, it really, was a boon for the education industry during the pandemic, when suddenly, unexpectedly, and, the schools closed down and all of us were, locked at our homes. At that time, it actually acted as a boon, wherein the learning and learning process did not stop just because of technology. The class reached the rooms or the bedrooms of the students, or the drawing room of the students, wherein they sat and had their academics going on. So that time it was really technology was something which actually helped the kids to grow and have that confidence during that difficult times. But then when I see the other side, the physical presence of a teacher, the facilitator, the presence of the facilitator in front is also one important thing which the technology cannot replace. That touch of the teacher teaching in the class in front of the students, looking at, having a direct eye contact with each one of them, taking up the understanding the body language of the child, the ability to read how each child is taking the topic taken up by that teacher. That is possible only when the teacher and the child is there standing face to face in front in the classroom.
Very true.
Possible wherein we take up technology. So technology, although I feel has done a lot and has changed the total learning, teaching learning scenario, but still the facilitator, the teacher as a facilitator is very important, and that personal touch to the child has to be there. And when we say this, we can always have a balance. That does not mean that we give up with technology. No, we have to strike up a balance wherein technology and the teaching learning process with the facilitator goes together hand in hand, and the child is upgraded. And whenever we need to switch in one or the other, we are ready for them. And that is one which is emphasized on, and that is one wherein I have already trained our kids, and the kids are into it. So anytime if you want to go online and take up, my kids are aware of a number of softwares where they can take up assessments, they can take up quizzes, they can write their notes, everything. So it has to go both hand in hand. Simultaneously, it has to be
that teachers cannot, but here we are not actually speaking about the teacher being replaced. That we hands down feel that. So Roli ma'am, you tell us that during the pandemic, were these learning outcomes, how were they impacted? So was it that they were, you had to tweak them to the needs of the students because it was completely a virtual? And how would then now you created an innovation in a hybrid scenario? So learning outcomes are very important. They are actually the base on which the whole, that's the edifice on which the whole building of teaching learning process stands. So how did you manage to, create different learning outcomes during pandemic, and how you're continuing with that or not continuing with that?
So surely, speaking of the learning outcomes or understanding of how and what our kids are learning.
Your voice is buffering. I don't know. Is it some technical glitch? Ma'am, say just once again.
Am I audible or shall I change?
Audible, but your voice is buffering. At Team Edudevs, is it?
Yeah, wait a minute, ma'am. Let me check.
Is it any better? I change the audio.
Ma'am, you speak once. You speak.
Yes, ma'am.
So that means the problem is at Roli ma'am's with system. Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, is it any better now?
It's completely.
Yeah.
Change the audio system, fine, then that's fine. So yeah, we were talking of did we find a need to tweak the learning outcomes or understand the whole concept differently during the virtual phase of teaching learning? Yes, everybody did, and thus everybody rightfully felt the need also. We cannot lose sight of Darwin's theory of adaptation to the changing scenario, and it's very imperative for the educators especially. But see, one thing we all understand today, that there is a common focus on raising the student achievement while integrating technology as a tool. India was a little behind for different reasons, demographic and so many other resources as determinants to be talking about it. But we cannot forget that students today live in a very technological world. Most students use some form of technology on a daily basis, including, texting or social networking or web surfing. So students see these types of technologies as useful and extremely enjoyable. So as educators, it was a task for us to align our teaching learning practices to these things to the best of our abilities, resources available, and to the ends in our mind. So yes, as you said, we did tweak the learning outcomes, but we never lost sight of learning to be received at the end of the learner's year. Teacher stayed to be more of a galvanizer. And we took great help of technology. As I talked recently, our assessment pattern is basically in a very high way determined by technology. The broad objectives report, the diagnostic report, it can all be conducted very well online. We continued with that. Plus, in addition to that, we also used a lot of applications that could have accelerated learning and at the very same time giving students the honors of their learning. So for example, there are apps for everybody to explore, like the Gimkit, like quizzes, like Bookit, like Booka Kucha. These were put to great use during the online learning phase. And we follow this pedagogy pattern. It's something which is, you can say, brought into force by John Correpo from the USA. He calls it Edu Protocols. And once understanding that, we fathom that it's a very good way to reach to the objectives we would want in a more expedited way and in a virtual setting. So all in all, there were gaps given the reality, and it was true to every school. Though so many people didn't have devices, so many people could not be online because of bandwidth and other resources. But all in all, we could be, self-encouraged by what we were doing. And again, indulge in asynchronous teaching also, to keep up with whatever outcome in learning we wanted for our kids. We could create, meaningful learning experiences. We could indulge kids in hands-on learning opportunities, including, you can say, mathematics, or whether it was reading. So we guided children to amazing reading resources like the Story Weaver, Pick a Tale, and we could put them to very good use. We formed online literature circles, book clubs were there. So learning outcomes were determined accordingly, tweaked, but yes, we tried to make sure to the best of our abilities that learning happens seamlessly.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Even we went for the online labs and all for the senior students.
Yes.
Each and every corner was taken care during the online classes during the pandemic.
So this also brings me to my next question, and that would also be the last question. School leadership is internationally recognized as being a key factor for improving quality in education. National Education Policy has come up with a document branding the school leaders as pedagogical leaders. That's a big term. So shifting their role from just being administrative heads to those who would lead and inspire the teaching learning process. So my question, and very briefly, I would like you to answer as we are coming to the end of the episode. How exactly does school leadership influence the learning outcomes of students, considering they aren't creating the learning outcomes? They're But here you can also talk about the overall learning outcomes, not subject specific. Generally, the field is open to you to answer the way you want to. So yes, Bharti ma'am, first you, and then Roli ma'am.
As a school leader, when I look, look towards my teachers and students, I believe a healthy environment in the school with the students and the teachers and each and every other staff. If you create a healthy environment, a motivational environment, and you have a one-to-one connect with each one of them, that would always create one kind of a situation and one kind of an environment wherein everybody will not take the work as a burden, but will passionately and with full interest put their best into the thing. And when this is made possible in a learning environment, I think the goal is achieved. I think the work is done, and whatever then you direct them or whatever you expect them to do, they are the one who will always be in front of you and be a helping hand to do all that you want for the kids to come up. So there has to be, number one, a supporting learning contest and crucial to promoting learning environment. So that is very crucial now, because even NEP says, like, we have to focus on the holistic development of the kids. And when we want holistic development of the kids, the teachers are the most important stakeholders in this, wherein if they get that motivation from the leaders, they get that handholding from the leaders, they get the direction and the help in which they can grow ahead and they can prove themselves. I think they are the one who will do their best, and automatically the goal of the learning and the outcomes will be very much visible. So I believe motivational factors and a good environment given to the teachers, having a personal touch with the kids. Now, when, for example, when you move around in the corridor, when I'm taking rounds, if any child passes by and if you just make them stand and speak to them, not regarding their academics always, but something which they would love, that connect is developed. And when you are able to develop that connect, not only with the students, but with the teachers as well, I think it is done and your school is going to grow.
Very great. I think great closing statement. This also happens to be your closing statement, that as school leaders, it's important motivation, good environment, and personal touch. Ms. Bharti says school motivation, good environment, and personal touch are the key components of creating a great learning environment. And of course, a great learning environment then also brings great learning outcomes. Thank you so much, Ms. Bharti. Yes, Roli ma'am, and after that, I would like to ask Lakshmi ma'am to be ready with her closing statement. Ji, Roli ma'am.
So, ma'am, it's believed that the strongest empirical impact on student learning outcome amongst all the different types of leadership today is via instructional leadership that we are just discussing, wherein a principal simply has to be directly engaged with teaching learning processes. So as school leaders, principals are regarded, we know, to be implementing key policies and achieving external accountability objectives. But today we see if the principal is promoting and participating in teacher learning and development, if she's clearly establishing the goals and expectations, which can be evolving with time, with needs, as we have seen over the pandemic. If we are able to do strategic resourcing of whatever we have, technology coming in play in foray, every school leader had to evaluate how to make, education embrace technology over time. Then beyond strategic resourcing, I think she should herself be evaluating teaching and curriculum. So yes, lesson planning, as you said, has to be very new. And also we must ensure an orderly and supportive environment, as ma'am said. So this type of leadership is based on the creation of, yes, a lot of trust, implying teachers in decisions concerning the programs, concerning the instructions. This is shared leadership, is what I believe in. And these are two very important factors and enhancers of development of a professional community here. So I would just wind up saying that here a principal has to be a leader in the thick of action, no more an administrator in the four walls of the principal's office, and just believe that you have to create more leaders, whether it's the teachers around you or whether it's the students around you, just like all good leaders do all the time. Don the role of a leader in inspiring others to achieve a collective vision of change. Let's rethink about education. Let's unlearn from the things from the past, relearn, and just march ahead. As leaders, having so many alongside with us marching ahead, students and teachers. That's a very lofty vision of school leadership that I have today.
Excellent, excellent. And Amen. I pray that your lofty vision soon becomes very, it is realized. And with your kind of leadership and with your kind of ideals, I am sure, and the philosophy that drives your organization, I'm sure that this shall happen soon. Moving on to Lakshmi ma'am. Yes, ma'am. What is your last statement over on this webisode of improving student learning outcomes? Is Lakshmi ma'am there? I don't think so. She has lost the connect. So coming to an end of this session, I think though the issue was so pertinent, we could have gone on and on and on. We had some great insights. And I think Lakshmi ma'am is now host. Yes, ma'am, you're back. Is Lakshmi ma'am here on the show?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So Lakshmi ma'am, your last statement?
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes.
So here it's like our aim or our purpose is to create the children or to make our children ready for the future. So it's like we should focus on maybe student-centric things, and we should develop our
I think that is, yeah.
that is okay for our students, realistic, true, new things. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, we all agree that the outcome should be extremely realistic, and our role as an educator should be that the learning happens in the best possible way. So let's take a step back and ponder whether we can realistically improve the quality of student learning without first clearly articulating what students should know and be able to do as a result of their post-secondary experiences. We had great discussion today. We started on from Roli ma'am talking about the learning outcomes being the GPS of the curriculum, to Bharti ma'am talking about motivation, good environment, and personal touch being the key components of creating a holistic learning and a powerful learning environment. You did get a lot of tips as to how to create the most effective learning outcomes. As always, all good things come to an end, though we don't want to stop discussing and deliberating on such a pertinent issue, but we are bound by time. Thank you so much, our dear panelists, for taking this time out and helping us reach out to a large catchment of the teacher community. And actually, this is the vision of Futuristic Education webinars, where we call each and every edu leader to bring their perspectives on the table and be the change that we all wish to see in the 21st century education. I would like to tell you that Edudevs, in association with Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham, is coming to your city, is coming to Lucknow with multiple initiatives. We have with us Aspirations Know No Boundaries, which are our sessions to motivate, counsel, guide the students, senior secondary students. We have the teacher conclave happening on the 6th August in GD Goenka Public School on competency-based education. And then we also have something which is very dear and close to my heart, the Yuva Manch, a platform that we are launching for the youth of the country. Thank you so much for coming to this show. Do we have an AV to be played at the end? Priya ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, Roli ma'am and everyone. It was wonderful interacting with you. Lovely insights.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Same here, ma'am Devyani. Same here, ma'am Bharti. Same here,
Same here. Thank you.
Malakshmi ma'am. All of you
Devyani
was
ma'am,
fabulous.
Lakshmi. Yeah.
Thank you, Lakshmi ma'am. So can we have the audio included? Yes, play it again.
Yeah, wait a minute, ma'am.
All right, thank you so much. As everyone said that no matter how powerful technology is, technology will have its glitches. It is the human interface that will have to, that is a non-negotiable. It cannot be displaced. And hence I request you all to please join us on our various initiatives, and we shall be in Lucknow from 3rd of August till 6th of August. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
On behalf of all the Lucknowites, Devyani ma'am, we congratulate you for the beautiful endeavor that you have taken up and your commitment towards it. We all are enriching ourselves as we come together in such beautiful forums of exchanging thoughts and insights. So huge commendations to you. Congratulations. Keep going strong, stronger, strongest. Best wishes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay.